Alright, so today we're going to look at loading on an amp draw for Eachine Racer 250 motors. Alright, so had a Racer 250 and converted that to a Martian frame, and when I did that I put it on 4S LiPo power. Now, one of the things with the original stock ESCs they have to be cautious about is that they're only 12.5 amp ESCs, and if you put them on 4S you can burn out your ESCs because the motors will pull too much amp draw. So the real the advice out there, and it's good advice, is you can't over prop it. So when I was running with the 12 amp ESCs, I was using bi-blades, not tri-blades, King Kong 5045s, and you can find them on Banggood. It's essentially this blade, but it's only 2 blades instead of 3. I got new ESCs eventually, 20 amp ESCs, so I got tri-blade 5045s and put those on and flew those for a while, and was interested that in black box, and if you have a flight controller that measures current, which I do now, you can see the amp draw when you're doing punch outs. So these are still the Racer 250 motors, so it's essentially these motors, and they are the 2204 2300 kV, but these have the King Kong tri-blade 5045 bullnose, so they're a very aggressive, inefficient prop, but they provide a lot of punch. We all like punch. So anyways, coming back to this, you can see the amp draw at a full punch out is around 17.04 amps per motor. So yeah, the threat is real that would over amp your motors or your ESCs, your 12.5 amp ESCs, and could potentially catch them on fire slash burn them out. So yeah, just a little send-off information on that I looked at. Another interesting point I'll include in this. I ultimately upgraded to these RCX motors, 2400 kV, and it's at 2205, so it's 2 millimeters higher on the stator, and then another 1000 RPM per volt in speed for top end speed. And these have quite a bit of thrust. We're in the 1000 grams of thrust range. Now this is the V2s. The mini quad tension beds doesn't have the V3s, but they're at least the 2400. So I'm gonna assume it's kind of the same. So we're 1000 grams of thrust, and there's some testing on the Eachine ones. Now I don't know what blades. I didn't look into this to see what blades, standard propellers with the DIY kit. So I don't, I'd have to look into what those are. But anyway, this gentleman on his bench testing was getting around 400 grams of thrust, and you can watch this video. Here's the URL link right there. So I should be getting twice the thrust, but that's bench testing for both. So I figured, well, let's put on just 2 of the new motors and do some punch outs, and we should be able to see the differential in power between one side to the other. So the right side of the quad in this trace has the new RCX motors, same props, same King Kong, tri-blade 5045 props, and the left side has the old Racer 250 motors. And you can see that the King Kong motors, or the RCX motors, about 25% more thrust. And that's not on a bench, that's in the air. So that's allowing, obviously as the craft is doing a punch out, the props are able to unload because it starts to move up through the air. It doesn't have that constant drag on it. that drag starts to release. And you can kind of see that here as it approaches it. But I thought it was an interesting little thing, a way to test motors in the real world, and using black box to see the differentials between them versus bench testing all the time. And then you can see the amp draw is quite a bit more just with half of them. So now we're up to 90 amps to 22 amps per motor. So I have a 20 amp ESCs that can go up to 26 peaks, so I need to keep an eye on that. I knew this was going to be a thing. I might have to limit my upper band throttle until I get higher rated ESCs for this with these new motors now. But I knew that, but I wanted to at least spend my money on some decent thrust motors with some pretty decent efficiencies as well. If you look at the efficiencies for mini quad tench bench, they have, depending on the prop, but still 2.6 is not too bad, 2.7, lowest is 2.5. A lot of the other budget brand motors, they're down at 2.1, 2.2 efficiency, so the higher the better. And that's at max RPM. It gets better if you're at the lower RPMs or the lower throttle values. So anyways, thought this was some interesting things I've looked at recently and wanted to throw it out there, and hope you guys appreciate it. Hope it helps, and hope you found it interesting. If you like this kind of stuff in Black Box, please go ahead and subscribe.
Celebrated ideas.